If you've been a cop for more than a couple days, you surely have thought about the possibility that you might not come home, that you might be killed in the line of duty. But very often we forget that our loved ones are at home having the same thought. My guest today, Carmen East, widow of Floyd East Jr., Texas Tech University Police Department, is with us today to tell her story. Stay with us.
You are a warrior.
321 status.
What kind of vehicle is it?
You are the very best your nation has to offer.
911.
Multiple shots fired.
They're asking you to lead.
5. We need a Bearcat.
It's up to us.
So 133. I need somebody that's got a visual on where the shooter is.
You must be sound in mind, body, and spirit.
40 feet, where's the officer down? I have a rescue helicopter that wants to land and help.
This is the podcast that will make you the one.
Copy, running eastbound.
The one that will bring everyone back.
I believe we have shot fired. Give me backup now.
Because no one else is coming.
We're going to have an officer shot. 100 block of East Street.
Suspect is down.
This is The Squad Room.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Squad Room. I'm your host, Garrett Teslaw, and on this show, we are here to help you succeed in your challenging career. I am building a world where first responders wake up inspired, feel confident at work, and go home safe, knowing they've spent their time in a worthy cause. The purpose of this podcast here is to help you serve, strive, and succeed in this very challenging career. My guest today is a wonderful woman. This is a first for the Squad Room. We have a widow on the show today, Carmen East. She is the widow of Floyd East Jr. Floyd was shot and killed, and his end of watch was October 9th, 2017. Floyd was only 5 months into his time as a police officer after having achieved his lifelong dream. The conversation we have is intense. It is crushing. It is also inspiring. And I think you will fall in love with Carmen as much as I did for her willingness to let her husband pursue something that meant so much to him while knowing that the possibility was out there. Her story in the aftermath of what happened is both tragic and crushing, but also empowering. And now, as the founder of Texas 635, she's out there helping other widows make that transition when that knock on the door comes. Stay with us to listen to this episode with Carmen East. The current pandemic that we're in has obviously changed the game in how we manage our fitness and our health. With gyms across the country shutting their doors and good fresh produce in short supply, we really have to take ownership of our routines when it comes to our fitness. A lot of you have been left scrambling to replace your gym routine with something you can do at home. Others of you might already have a home gym, but are looking for something more structured that you can use to set yourself up for success. Well, this episode is sponsored by Hard to Kill Fitness, and I think they have a solution to the problem of staring at a whiteboard wondering what to do. Hard to Kill is run by a team of military veterans and active duty police officers. You might have heard Matt, the operational athlete, on one of our most recent episodes talking about his work with Hard to Kill. Hard to Kill Fitness offers some simple yet highly effective and proven functional training workouts that you can do at home or the gym. Their routines focus on basic equipment and fundamental movements, so you don't have to learn how to do Olympic lifts or complex movements. Hard to Kill Fitness develops workouts specifically for the demands of the military and first responder communities, and their goal is to help you be prepared mentally and physically for the challenges we all face on the street. Each workout comes as a PDF and includes detailed descriptions of the movements in each workout, tips on mindset, and a progressive path that build on the previous work you've already put in. You also get access to the private Facebook group, and you can interact with the coaches there by email or by Instagram. Right now, Hard to Kill Fitness is offering 30% off their bodyweight plans, which require minimal equipment, just a willingness to get after it. Check them out at hardtokillfitness.co or on Instagram at hardtokill_fitness. Carmen, welcome to the squad room. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Tell me about your husband, Floyd.
Floyd was an officer for Texas Tech University. He had been on the force for a few months, and his dream had always been to be an officer, so he got the opportunity to become one. So he had worked for Texas Tech already for a while as a guard, and then he went through schooling to try and become an officer. And he finally got he finally was able to graduate and do what he needed to do, and he was stationed in Lubbock, Texas.
And you knew Floyd since you were about 5 years old, but this was the second marriage for both of you. What was that experience like? And how did you guys come to reconnect?
It was something that was meant to be, which was really weird. We've known each other since we were 5 years old. Our families have been very good friends for a very long time. His mother and my mother come from small towns in Mexico, and they lived in the farm. So your next door neighbor was like 20 miles away, and that's who their neighbors were, was Floyd's family. So so that's how we knew each other. So every time anybody died or anybody got married, any major events, the whole entire family would get together. So yeah, we were kicking each other in the shins since we were 5 years old. We became high school sweethearts. And then I, I think after we graduated high school, we decided to take different paths. I wanted to go to college and finish what I needed to do to graduate with a degree, and he still wasn't ready for college and wanted to explore and just have a job. So what I decided to do is I'm the one who said, well, it's time that I need to get serious, and because I'm a C student, so I need to concentrate tremendously on my grades. So we went our separate ways, and it took us 20 years to reunite again. And the way we reunited is at the beginning of Facebook. I've always been an entrepreneur by heart, and that's why I have a business degree. But I've always been an entrepreneur and wanted to start some type of online business, and Facebook was just barely starting. And but you can tell how old I am. So what I did is I created an account and did a whole bunch of things, and then I said, ah, you know what, this is not going to work out. So I threw everything to in my junk mail. And of course, you know how it is with junk mail. Nothing comes back from junk mail unless you release it. Well, months later, after I divorced, I was already divorced 2 years. Um, I get an email saying, "Is this you, Carmen?" And it's from Floyd. And the only way he would have known to be able to find out if it was me was from the Facebook, because it came directly from Facebook as a message, as an email. And I said, "Well, how can this be?" Because I threw everything to junk. And the girls probably won't remember because I had two daughters already from a previous marriage. But I stood up on the couch, literally with my laptop in my hands, going, "Oh my God." Because I really did wanted to reunite again with him, but I knew from his family, of course, because we were all close, is that he was married. So I did not want to interrupt anything of that. So I said, well, then that's just going to close the door on that one. And then come to find out that he had also been divorced 2 years, ironically. And then unfortunately one of my uncles passed away. And of course, when one of the family members passed away, everybody, the entire family gets together. Well, he ended up being right behind me at the wake. He was sitting right behind me while I was sitting with my mother, who was just starting to go through Alzheimer's. And so I was kind of arguing and fussing with my mother, and I heard his voice behind me saying, "Yep, that's always been your mom. She's always been a really tough cookie." And I turned around and realized it was him, and I don't know what happened to my uncle after that. But that's how we got back together. And we were together 4 years before we got married. We lived together here in El Paso, Texas. And then we decided to get married, and that was it. And then that's when we decided to go into law enforcement.
So he hadn't gone too long. He hadn't started his career in law enforcement, even though there was this time gap. And you say it was something he'd always wanted to do. What brought him to it later in life, and what was the process for him that brought him into service like that?
He just felt he was a deep sea diver. He was a wreck diver, and he was working on that type of job. He was Las Vegas taking care of all the fountains, and he would also go in Seattle. They would take him down for rescues and stuff like that, and also in Florida the same thing. And he just always respected law enforcement. Law enforcement to him, he really wanted to be some, but he had always had his job was always the one that was very demanding and never had the opportunity to sit down and take care of it. And then what ended up happening is once we got together, my mother turned to the worst, and I needed to continue working, but I also needed somebody to help me to take care of her. And he said, "You know what, babe? I'll take care of her. I'll stop working, and I'll be here for your mom." And I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yes." And that's what he did. He actually took care of my mom for a year. But what he did during that time also is as soon as I was home from work, he said, I'm gonna realize my dream. I'm gonna go and just I'm gonna try and be an officer." And I said, "Go for it." Any aspirations he always had, I was never the one to hold him from it. I always wanted him to go for it. So he said that what he was going to do. He started attending academy here. So at night, well, after I would get off of work at 3, because I would go in at 6. So when I get off at 3, he would take off and go to night school. And during those days, as he would take care of mom, trying not to get out of the house and driving him batty and crazy like she would drive me, poor thing, he would study and he would go to school. And that's how he became an officer.
And he eventually joined the Texas Tech Police Department.
Correct.
And he how does field training work with the university system there in Texas? Because you're from El Paso,
Yes.
but he was stationed in Lubbock. Was this a choice, or was it the only place a job had opened up, or how
It
did that
was the
work?
only opportunity that he got that a place opened up for him. And he said, I got to get my foot in the door. Um, it's 5 hours from El Paso because Texas should be its own country. So so he would travel 5 hours to stay there the entire week, and then he would pack up right after his shift would end and come back home. And that was really the only thing that was open. And since he was already working for Texas Tech and found the opportunity and interviewed for it, that's how he was able to acquire it.
And I imagine his hope was to eventually come back to El
Yes,
Paso in some
yes.
way.
His main hope was to come back to El Paso, as what he wanted to do is hopefully a position would open up here where he could attend. And just to mention, he has family who are in law enforcement. He has a nephew who's a chip in California, in San Diego, and he has had other uncles in the past who have been law enforcement. So it was in him to wanting to be one too.
What do you think? What is it that drew him to it? Because I think we all have our own path to service, and different things attract different people. What was it that attracted him?
To him it was he wanted to be in the military, but his mom was always so scared and frightened about it, and he was a very good man, so he stayed behind. And he said he really always had that anchoring of just wanting to be in law enforcement, the community support, the going out and serving and protecting is one of the things that he always wanted to do. He admired them. He admired his nephew so much, and he always had pictures here in the house of his uncles and his past family members who have been in law enforcement. So he had a picture of an uncle who he always kept. Uncle Joe. He would always look at it and say, "I'm going to be that. I'm going to be." He will always like bless him, because he was already deceased, but he was said, "I'm going to be one of you."
And what did Uncle Joe represent to Floyd?
It represented loyalty, service, and community, and that's one of the main things that he always wanted to. He's always really good at speaking, at Um, I think the main thing that attracted him also to stay at Texas Tech is that Floyd was a very big motivator, and he could communicate to the youth like nobody else could. He had a way to make everything seem simple. Our home was always a safe haven for like our girls when they start growing up and in their in their new teenage years when he was still alive. Um, when we would go to the public schools, and we would go to PTA meetings and to teacher conferences, the teachers would always say, "They are such happy kids. They're such happy girls." And you can tell, and that reflects when they're in a safe home. And that's one of the things that Floyd was really adamant about is protecting and feeling safe and doing neighborhood watches. All that pertain to serving community is one of the main things that he always aspired to.
And so he's able to achieve what's really a lifelong dream at
Yes,
this
he
point.
was so proud. I was very proud of him, and we were all proud of him. And he was all like, "Can I do this and I do that?" And they're teaching me how to do this, and he was just beaming. It was like, why did I wait so long in my life to get to this point? And I'm like, I don't know. His parents were always hard workers. I mean, they were working in maquilas and were working in every which way to just get things paid and done. So motivation was not always there in his family, and that's one of the things that he says, God, I wish somebody had motivated me sooner to do this. And then I'm like, oh, hey, the only time that we can't do anything is when we're dead. So keep going.
And your own reservations about law enforcement, obviously it can be a dangerous career. Did you have any at the time, or were just you're focused on supporting him and him achieving a dream?
It was both. I was focused on supporting him, but I was also fearful. I also got it from his family as well. They're a lovely family. I love them to pieces. Even to this day, after his death, we're really close. But we all talked about it and concerned. And it's like, why? I'm afraid. So it's going to happen to him, and he's going to get hurt out there. And I go, it can happen to all of us. It can happen to us at any time. But yes, it comes with the territory. I go, but if that's his true calling and this is where he's happy, and we need to support him. And they did. They supported him, and I did too. But every time he left, it was always just come back to me. Just please come back to me. And he would say, yes, ma'am. And that was it.
I think there's a connection there. I'm a diver, but I'm not a deep sea diver. So what strikes me about your stories about Floyd is that he is accustomed to managing fear or danger,
Exactly.
because deep sea diving is very dangerous, very very dangerous.
It is. It was.
And so I ask a question about going into law enforcement, but as I'm listening to you talk, I think back and think, well, deep sea diving wasn't any less dangerous almost, and so he must have had.
He had it. Yeah, I know where
Yeah.
you're going. I know where you're going. He had that danger, adventurous. He loved that poem, Wow, What a Ride. And forgive me
Mhm.
if I don't know whom the author is and I need to learn who it is. But it's called Wow, What a Ride. Is that he wanted to leave this earth and he wanted to die guns a blazing. And I'm saying it to you exactly how he used to tell it to me. So this whole adventure that has happened to us with his passing has been like, oh my God, this is like full circle, because he used to, and always when he always liked to be with family and have cookouts and gatherings, and nothing crazy or anything, just sit around and talk about life and things that are happening. So all our friends, they can testify to what I'm saying, is that he used to talk about death like we talk about life. He said exactly how he wanted to be remembered and what he wanted done, if he passed away. So we were all looking and we're like, okay, all right, pass the salt, type of stuff, type of deal, And one of the things is that he was always adventurous. He he wanted to. He did bungee cording, bungee cord. He did jumping. He did diving off cliffs, skydiving. He did everything that would be an adventure, a feeling of being there at the edge of, well, God forbid, dying. He was always very adventurous, and it was a constant like, oh my God, Floyd, sit. But that's what he loved to do. And that's, if he said, if he had a boy, that he would put his middle name would be Danger. And I'm like, no, it wouldn't. But that's just the way he was. He always adventurous, and he loved that poem, which is, wow, what a ride. Is that, at the end, when they see you, when your body's there laying to rest, and they see you with scars and scrapes and bruises and stuff, and then when my spirit's gone, all I'm going to say is, wow, what a ride. Floyd did not want to be sitting down, and he told me, he goes, babe, I don't want to sit there, and be 80 something years old, and people say, oh, poor Floyd, he can't hold any of his fluids anymore. He didn't want to be that. He never wanted to get to that point.
You're describing to me a person full of joy. Am I right? Yeah.
Yes, he was. He was a big bundle of it. He would walk into a room and everybody would, and then not that he was asking for attention, just people would come around him and laugh and talk and just have a good time.
And your daughters from your previous marriage, Floyd became
Yes.
the stepdad of.
Yes.
How did he become? How did he transition from single, because he didn't have children of his own
No,
prior,
he
right?
he could never have children. Something, he was just not able to have any. It was something in his sperm count. I don't know what it was, but he could never have any. So when I said, "Hey, you don't have to worry about that because I already come with two," so it did frighten him. Him being very adventurous. I go, "Hey, Mr. Adventure, I have two daughters and they're little, but they're loving and their father is still in their life, and I respect that relationship too, because it's their dad, and I am good friends with all of his family as well, because we are raising these two girls, and those are their families. And Floyd was wonderful. He respected that they had their father, and he also told them, he goes, I'm not here to replace your dad. I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to be mentor and helper, and whatever I can do to make life easier for you and for you to understand. He said this too, and I'm quoting him exactly. He goes, I'm here to help you understand how life is easy. He goes, it's not that complicated, and how to enjoy it. He always said that to them, and they remember that.
And so, how did they adapt to him and this new person?
Actually, they adapted very well. Well, the oldest one, because I guess you saw a lot that happened between my ex-husband and I, which I take responsibility for it as well. Um, she's a little more protective of me,
Hmm.
but the younger one was very little when we divorced and separated, um, and so she didn't see much. And I'm not saying it got violent or anything, but I guess it was the stress of having to break up the marriage and the relationship and stuff that made it difficult. But he came in, and he became the father. He became the father figure. I will admit, and I admit it, I became a mama bear, and I was a mama bear, and Floyd sat me down and he said, "Babe, there is no way that we're going to be able to raise these girls if we're not on the same page." And I told him, "You're absolutely right." And he goes, when I think that they need to be corrected, you and I need to talk and make sure that it is, and then we need to put it in play and be on the same page. And I said, you're absolutely right, Floyd. You're absolutely right. And so we were. And so there were times that he did put his foot down, and he became an ordinary dad. He became one of those old time dads that, it says, oh, wait till your dad gets home. Well, wait till Floyd gets home and I'll let him know what you did. And, the fear of God, just not because of him being mean, but because he was teaching them, a lesson. And he always told them that. He would always say, I am not here to be mean to you. I'm not being mean to you. I'm not scolding you because I want to. I goes, I hate being the bad guy. He goes, I hate being the asshole. He goes, but I'm just trying to teach you a lesson. I get nothing out of yelling at you. I get nothing out of punishing you or or putting you in timeout. I get nothing out of it. I'm trying to teach you a lesson. And there was a point, I think it was, and this is very ironic too. It was like 2 or 3 months before he passed away. We just had dinner, and the girls were excused, and they went to their rooms. And he told me, "They are the girls have grown up." And I'm going, "Yes, they're growing up." And he goes, "No, I think we've done a good job, and there are now the people that they're going to be for the rest of their lives." And I'm
Hmm.
going, well, I owe it a lot to you because you're the one who helped them get to that point. And so, yeah, no, they adapted very well.
So back to his service a little bit. So, I mean, the transition with the family and then him moving into a new career and going to night school to do it. The day he graduated the academy, that must have been pretty special.
Oh, the day he graduated academy, he was crying. He was so happy. I mean, his smile was from ear to ear. He was really really happy, and he was proud. And the family was there to see it happen. And yeah, we celebrated him.
It must have been. I can envision that. I mean, someone who's worked at something and thought about something and put it off for so long and has finally achieved a goal.
Hmm.
It makes sense that he is the kind of person who would drive a commute of 5 hours to go to work.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Oh, yeah. There's many officers that are in his beat who always ask me. He goes, I thought he was crazy. I thought he was crazy of him wanting to as soon as he got off a shift to drive 5 hours to come home. But
mhm.
once they saw, who we were, and when they were here after the funeral, and how we always made this place peaceful and loving, and always encountered, friendships, and made new people, feel comfortable. He says, well, I would get on that car too and drive home 5 hours right after work.
So was he? Did he put himself through the police academy, or did Texas Tech hire him
He
before?
put
I mean,
no, we put him through.
we.
Yeah, him and I were we worked hard to put him through that. I took my paycheck, and I was at one point that I said, okay, the only way we're going to be able to do this is when I get my paycheck, is you have it all. Because his tuition would come up, and we're like, oh my god, and we're like, it's okay, we'll figure it out. And I would give him my entire paycheck. I'm a IT person. I've been working in IT for 27 years. So I had a steady job, thank goodness. And I've always able to, if he needed something, I was able to put it on the table. We would be very strapped, tremendously strapped, but it was like, no, this is something you've been wanting for a very long time, and have no problem helping you out. So,
And then the job offer from Texas Tech came. What was that? What was
oh my
that day like?
God, he was excuse my language, but he was like, fucking
Okay.
A. He was very happy. He was very elated and very happy that he got it. And, but he just hated the fact that he was going to be apart from us. And I'll admit it. I can share it with you now because he's gone. That's what I say now. I can share a lot of things that he wouldn't want me to share with anyone. But he would cry. He would hesitate, and he would cry when he would have to leave us on Friday nights or Sunday nights, because his shift would start on Monday. And
Mm.
but I told him, I go, it's okay, we'll come back. Don't worry. Just keep pushing through, and we'll see how we can get you back home.
So he's there for a couple of months. He's
Hmm.
graduated the academy. He has his dream job now,
Hmm.
and he's working at Texas Tech, which is a big university.
Hmm.
Describe for me your experience on October 9th of 2017.
Yeah, that was something else. October 8th, which was okay, the day before. Actually, no, it was October 9th. It was October 9th. I get confused because I was in Ireland. I was I've been a programmer and developer, and I was now a project manager, and I was deploying a software package, an upgrade. And I was 2 weeks in Ireland. It was already going to be my second week. He had called me on his Monday morning, the 9th, which was my evening, 7 hours difference. It was my evening. So I was telling him how everything was going at work. And he told me he was proud of me, like he always did. He goes, "I'm proud of you. Keep going. You're doing well." He's like I said, he was always a motivator, and he was always your cheerleader to whoever it was. It was always cheerleader. So he was telling me that, and then he was saying good night to me, and then I was saying good morning and take care and be careful. And he says, "I got everything in the back of the car ready." Because he had an apartment there, having to stay the entire week, but Monday was going to be his Friday. He was coming back home. He goes, "I got everything in the car. I'm ready. I'm set. And as soon as my shift ends, I'll get on the road." And I said, "Why are you doing that? That's 8 hours. You're on shift for 10 hours, and then you're going to be on the road and go rest a little bit and go back home." He goes, "No, well, because I want to help. My best friend had been here taking care of the girls for the past week." He goes, "No," and ironically, her name is Carmen too, like mine. And he goes, "No, I want to give Carmen a break. She's been there taking care of the girls, so I'm going to try and get there as quickly as I can." And I said, "Okay." So that was it. And he said, "I love you." I said, "I love you too." And he said, "Good night." And I said, "Good morning." And that was it. So I'm in my room. And for some reason, in Ireland, they don't think of putting outlets next to the nightstands. So I had all my cell phone and all my electrical equipment on the dresser away from where the bed is. And I had my phone on vibrate because at work I can't have it on ringing. So I had it on vibrate. So at 3 in the morning Ireland time, I wake up all of a sudden and I get this immense feeling of love for him. And I said, "Oh, I'm thinking of my babe." And that's all I said, and I went back to sleep. Well, then something wakes me up again like an hour later, and the phone is vibrating and vibrating and vibrating. So I finally stumble over and get up and look at the phone, and it's Carmen, my best friend who was here at home. And I was thinking, oh, one of the girls broke a nail or something's happened, and because she's exaggerating for something, and I'm like, oh, whatever. So I, and actually I didn't pay attention to it because she texted me and she said, "Have you heard from Floyd?" And I said, "No, I haven't." And I fell asleep because I was tired, and it was really early, and it was 4 in the morning. And then the phone vibrated again. So this time I answered it and I said, "Hello." And then she's very calm. And she goes, "Babe," she goes, "Honey, have you heard from Floyd?" And I said, "Something has happened, and there's been a shooting, and there's an officer down." And I said, "No, I haven't heard from him." And I took it off very calmly. I said, Floyd and I have had this conversation before, and if it comes up that there is an officer down, he said that if he will not be able to answer his phone because they're taking care of the situation, and no news is good news, and that he will contact us when he can. So I'm telling her this, and I'm hearing a lot of people in the background. I'm hearing stuff happening in the background, but I'm thinking we're hours differences, and it's their day, and it was just weird. So then, as soon as I said, there's, no news is good news, my hotel phone rings, and I knew it. At that moment, I knew it. And so I didn't hang up with her. I left her on the line on my cell phone, and I answered the other phone, and I said hello. And then it was the concierge and said, "Sorry, Mrs. East, didn't mean to interrupt you, but there is a phone call from Chief of Police from Texas Tech." And I said, I just knew it. I was already trying to calm myself down for what was I was going to expect them to say. But I really expected him to say that he was just injured. So Chief Bonneth gets on the line and he tells me, Carmen, I'm sorry to inform you in this manner. We've been trying to find officers to go to your room. And as soon as he said that, my mind was already processing the fact that he was gone, but my heart was saying he's okay. It's going to be all right. And as soon as they just said, there was a confrontation, there was an issue. We're so sorry to inform you that Officer Floyd East has died. And then my response to him, he stayed quiet and he goes, Carmen. And I stay quiet and I say, is he okay? And he says, I'm sorry, ma'am. He has passed away due to the confrontation. And I'm like, okay. And I just, the first thing that came to my mind is my daughters. And I said, okay, what do you need me to do? That's what I told them next. And I go, I need you to write this information down. Trembling, I wrote down something. I don't ask me what it was. It was his number. It was his name. I don't remember what it was anymore. I was starting to go into shock. So as soon as they said that, Carmen on the other line, all I'm hearing are screams. I'm just hearing screams from my cell phone because Carmen is hearing the entire conversation that I just had with Chief Bonneth. I hang up the phone because they're just screaming, and I just hang up the phone and I'm just sitting there and my cell phone rings again. It's actually my supervisors from my job. And they said, Carmen, we're so sorry. We're getting you on a plane as quickly as possible. Just throw all your things in your suitcase. There's already a car outside waiting for you. And so I didn't say anything. I couldn't say anything. And all I said was thank you. And I hung up and I went to the bathroom and I just literally how you see it in movies. I just threw everything. I just used my arm as a shovel and I just threw everything in my suitcase. And I kept saying no, 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 no. And I kept yelling at him and I go, where are you? I go, call me. I'm by myself. And just put everything away and went downstairs. I'm sorry. The
Take
one
your
thing
time.
I will always remember is when I got downstairs expecting to see, because there are special cars that they had for us always that were waiting for the vice president of the company was there. And a whole bunch of of bus drivers were there and limo drivers were there. Our company, which I used to work for Prudential, our company was in Letterkenny, Ireland, and they had special buses and special limos that would take us to our workplace. Um, Prudential kind of brought back to life that little town because they were only dependent on wool, and the market for wool wasn't there more, and the little town was going to kind of dissolve. So I'm saying this because they're very grateful and very, very special people because they're so grateful that their town was able to continue to function and to exist. And I'm the type of person that talks to everyone. When I would get on the bus, I made friends with Mark. I made friends with Jesh, and I made friends with a whole bunch of other drivers because I would talk to them. How's your day? How are you doing? How's everyone? And they will just tell me I have a toothache and and all this stuff. So the next day when I would see them, did you get your tooth fixed? Are you okay? How's your family? What did your sister Beth say? I'm just just conversations that I would have with them. Well, they all showed up. They all showed up and they were trying to give me money. They were trying to give me pounds, their money, saying, Carmen, here so you can eat something when you're waiting for your next flight, and here so that when you get home, you have something so you can take. That meant so much to me, just seeing. I had like 4 or 5 bus drivers that were there. How did they know at this hour of the morning? And how they were all there was amazing. Actually, the vice president, we used his car, and I have to drive 3 hours to Dublin to get on a plane. So another one of my colleagues ended up coming back with me, which was his name was Jose, and he's military, and he was still active and so he actually came with me, and he was wondering why he was going back so soon. I guess they didn't tell him, but when we were in the car, Joe said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Well, I just got some news that my husband has passed away and he has been killed." And he's all like, "I'm so sorry, Carmen." He's military, so he actually accompanied me. The company didn't want me to go by myself, 18 hours flight by myself. The only bad thing is when we got to the airport, of course I'm in a daze and I don't know what's going on, and you have all these people who are following us wanting to help me out. And so they're talking, you need to get her on this plane, because if not, then she's going to have to stay here another day until we can get her home. And this has happened. And so they get me in there, and I ended up sitting in first class. I've never sat in first class in my life. So Floyd and I always had a dream of being in first class, right? Who doesn't? So when I was there sitting in first class, I'm going, God bless it, Floyd. I mean, I'm in first class and you're not here to enjoy this with me, and I can't even enjoy it either. So I'm sitting there, and of course they have these television screens, right? In front of you, which are attached to the back seat of the other chair that's in front of you. And I'm starting to, I guess, go into, I don't know, I guess it's another stage of shock where I can't stop crying. I'm just crying and crying and crying. And in the midst of all those tears, I'm going, oh my God, I hate to think of it that way, but I mean, your mind goes through so many things. All I thought of was, how are we going to survive? Can I survive without his income? And so now I'm in a napkin full of tears and with a pen and writing, okay, I'm not going to have this amount anymore, and so how am I going to figure it out? How am I going to do this? And this is not something that I'm new to. I mean, when I got divorced, the same thing happened, what I had to figure out my income for myself and my daughters. So I kind of did that on purpose. I think I did it also so my mind can calm down, and I can calm down because there's other people around me, and I don't want to go hysterical, right? So I'm doing finances while we're on the plane. This is my first plane. I still have 2 more to go. So I'm doing that, and finally at the end, yeah, we'll survive with baloney and stuff, but we'll be okay. So on all this process, when I'm still crying, the news is coming on: CNN, ABC News, NBC News, and they're just showing the situation that's happening in Lubbock at Texas Tech with Floyd. And I don't know how to function. I don't know how to stop the TV. I can't even bring words up to tell the stewardess, please shut this off. And finally, nobody asked me any questions. Finally, at the end of the flight, there's one stewardess comes and tells me, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to pride. How can I help you? What's wrong? And I can't even bring the words up. I'm just pointing to the TV as they're showing all the police vehicles lit up in the night, and what's happening, and the reporters, and I'm pointing, and I'm trying to tell her that's my husband, and words don't come out. I can't tell her. And she kind of like puts it together, and she goes, "Oh my God." But we were landing at that point. I get out of the plane and and move myself somehow to the next gate and wait again, and my phone is blasting with people calling and calling and calling. I really don't want to talk to anyone, but I know I have to because it helps them. if I talk to them, it heals them. So I'm starting to answer calls on his friends and my family and text and get on the second plane and go through the whole thing all over again. And finally, when I get home to the third plane, there are officers and people there waiting for me to get off the plane. And first people I hug is his best friend Bill, who who's built just like him, he's same height and same build. And when he hugs me, it felt like I was hugging Floyd. And then they take me home and get home, and there's the whole family's here, and my daughters greet me to the door, and we fall to the floor. All three of us just fall to the floor. I just tell them we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. The next things that happened in the following days is a miracle and unbelievable. The thin blue line came out of everywhere. The thin blue line, people who didn't even know me or know us, uh, came to help us, supported us financially, and all this was coming and coming and coming, and I just turned over to my friends and my family and said and told them I can't just sit here and not give something back. I don't deserve this, and I can't. I feel I need to give. I need to do something. I need to do something. I need to give back in some way, because this was his dream. This is what he wanted to do. Ironically, he went out guns a blazing, like he said. But I need to do something, and that's where our foundation started from.
Yeah, I was watching a video um, in anticipation of obviously knowing we were going to talk, and really nicely well done recap of his service. And what struck me about that, and knowing a little of the story, was what you just said about how, especially in Texas, where you said you said it could be its own country, and it is in some ways. But how I was just struck by the impact that he had, and there's a connection to other police funerals in the sense of civilians, pulled off on the side of the road and wave, flying the Texas flag and flying the American flag and saluting and pausing to pay respects. And
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
did that connect with you at all at the time, to see the impact that he had made on these people that had never met him, or was
Mm-hmm.
that something that maybe took a while?
No, people that had never met him. It just came like you're saying. It just came. Everybody just Texas is a very proud and law enforcement state, and they love him dearly. But the thin blue line was longer than that. They came from New York. They came from Michigan. It came out of the country. They came from Britain. It was amazing. Uh, It was amazing.
I have to think that he's watching this unfold and proud of the impact as well.
Oh yeah, yep, yep. I'm sure he was, because his poem and his life just came to be. He'll never be old. He'll forever be young, and that's one of the things that he wanted to be, is forever young. Recently, I got an AARP thing on his name, and I saw it, and I started busting and laughing, because I know that Floyd was right there next to me, looking at it and going, "Screw it, I'm never going to be old." But I know he didn't want to leave the way he did, and I know that feeling of love that I had at 3 a.m. before all of this unfolded. I know it was him coming to say goodbye, coming to tell me it's going to be okay.
Hmm. This is obviously devastating to any family that has to go through something like this, and there's no way to prepare for this, as much as you might think through the possibility of it, when those phone calls or the knock on the door comes, I don't think anybody really knows how they're going to
No,
react. I mean, like you
it's
said, you were doing finances on the plane. But I'm curious if there's something that maybe you learned through this tragedy that ended up being helpful or maybe surprising or something, some lesson that's come out of it for you.
that's what that you just nailed it on the dot. That's what we're here on earth for, is to learn lessons and to love. That's what we're here on earth for, is to learn lessons and to love. And yes, there were a lot of lessons that I learned. One, that he's always with me. Two, that um, love is not only him and I, but it's a whole entire community. It's a whole entire nation. It's all of us. We're all connected by heart, and they showed that to me. Because we get so busy in our lives, and we get so busy, and this is my bubble, and this is my family, and this is the only people that matter. And
Mhm.
one thing that totally is one of the main lessons that I learned is that everyone matters, and they let us know that we mattered and that they were hurting with us, and that we're all bonded by that heart and by that law enforcement spirit, and they were all here.
And in the aftermath of this, you say, you saw people come out of the woodwork to support you, and then you turned around and felt like you needed to do something and not just be a recipient, but to pay it forward. And it strikes me as unusual only in the sense that here's something like, other than our children, that is probably the biggest thing that could be taken from you by this profession. And yet you felt the outpouring of support and felt you needed to turn around and and repay that and pay that forward. And I'm really struck by that, and and just immensely grateful for you, but for the foundation that you formed in the aftermath of this. And so, tell us about Texas 635.
Texas 635 is named, of course, because we're here in Texas, and 635 was his badge number. So, um, one of our dear friends, I call her my comadre because she baptized my oldest daughter, Terry Escarcega. She thought of the name Texas 635, and we all looked at each other and we went, "That's it. That's what we're going to call it." And what this foundation does is we do the same as people have done for us, for me, which is, unfortunately, when we find out that there is a fallen officer, a line of duty death, we send a check for 635, a one-time financial support check for 635. I wish it was more, but that's, of course, one, that's all that we can afford because our foundation is only 3 years old and we're starting. But 635 has a meaning because that was his badge number. So we send a check to the next of kin, or the fallen officer family, to help them in their time of need, because I was the same way. When I was in that, I was like, oh my God, how am I going to get through what we need to pay, and bills that are not going to stop, because the situation has happened and that I need to get going, and everything freezes. Your loved one passes away and everything freezes. So you're like, whatever it is that was coming in is not coming in anymore until they figure everything out. And that takes months to figure everything out. So how, we're going to have to figure a way to keep going. So we provide that. That's our first mission. It's our first bylaw, is that we provide that check to fallen officer families to help them out the way they did. I got checks from, and there were weird amounts. I wasn't understanding, because of course I was new to this. I wasn't understanding why 109, 1,923 or 467. And then when I would read the letter, it was, we're sending you this check in the name of our son, who end of the watch was, and this was his badge number, and that's why the amount of the check is based on his badge number. Or I'm sending you a check in the name of my wife, who died in the line of duty. and I was just getting constant letters like that. It's like, how do they know, and how did they get here? And these people are just giving it from their own paychecks to whom they see. And I'm like, oh my God, I was so immensely grateful, and I was hurting all over again for them, because like you were saying before, not like a loss of a child, and not that my loss is any greater than anybody else's. I've spoken to other widows of law enforcement, and they're all different. We all grieve and we all feel different, and our situations are all different. And it is very wrong for me to go up to anyone of any losing of anybody in that, not just law enforcement, but anybody who has lost someone. It's very wrong of me to go and say, I know how you feel. Because no, I don't. And nobody does. Everyone goes to their own personal grief. And that's another big lesson that I learned from this as well. But Texas 635 provides that one-time funding for them in honor of Floyd's badge number. So that's our first mission.
I have a. I'm curious. Given everything that happened, and but also in the context of the man you described who sought service, sought adventure, knew that he wanted his life to mean something, and he wanted to, when he passed in a way that had some purpose behind it, and not of old age. Knowing all those things, on the, if you had a magic 8 ball and you could go back in time, knowing what ends up happening, on that day that he tells you he wants to be a police officer, would you have changed your answer to him?
No, I wouldn't have. I would not have changed it. It's not my right. When it's something positive and something good and something that's going to benefit not only themselves or us or the community, I never say no. And it wasn't up to me to say that. That's his life. We lived it together, and yes, we have responsibilities and we have children, and whatever X things come up in families, but it's not my decision, it was his, and I would have not have changed it. Sometimes I do sit here, and I won't say that I don't wish that he still was here, because I miss hearing him laugh. I miss had such dry humor, and it would just make you bust out laughing at things that would happen and stuff, and how he would turn things around and find humor in it. And I miss that. I miss him in many different parts. And yes, maybe if I said no, he would still be here, but then I would just be holding him back from what he had always wanted to do. And who the heck am I to do that? It was an unfortunate event, and everything had to do with timing, and that's how it happened. And um, I don't think he would have appreciated of me, and I would have felt very awful if I would have stopped him. If he wanted to be something else in diving, I would have never have stopped him either, or he would have chosen a different career or path. I don't think it was my choice to say yay or nay. When you love someone, you just let them be.
One of the things I think that a lot of people who aren't in a law enforcement family don't understand is that this job, whenever there's family involved, if there's a spouse or especially children, that I sometimes say this is a two-person job. To put one cop on the street requires somebody at home to pick up the slack.
Exactly.
And we work these long 10, 12-hour shifts.
Exactly.
We work at night, which means the spouses or the loved ones are at home doing the things that need to be done to just keep a household running, dropping the kids at school, or
Exactly.
paying the bills that don't get paid because you're sleeping.
Exactly.
And it's really hard for people, I think, who haven't lived the lifestyle to understand that. And as a result of that, what I try to remind people, including my own wife, is that the spouse, and in your case, obviously being a Leo wife or my wife, um, the spouses are in service as much as the person in uniform. They just don't
Exactly.
get to they just don't get the hero credit that they deserve, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. No, no, they are. They are. They are. Truly, yes, they are. It's everyone's in the law enforcement. Everyone in the family is law enforcement. Because yeah, we have to make sacrifices, and there are things that and we always go to bed, and prayers that we do at night is like, bring him home, bring him home. My youngest had just made. She applied for a University of New York, and in her audition tapes, she actually honors her stepdad. And she says, at night we would pray to make sure he would come home. And we would get things ready for him for the next day. Because when they were at school, we made sure we had food left so that he could eat and make sure he was okay. And yeah, or I would get someone so that my mom would not be tasking him when he would be home for the weekend, so he could sleep and rest. I would take care of her and keep him out of her way so that he could relax. So yeah, it is the families take up the slack of everything that goes on. And not only that, but what they see and what they go through, they don't want to bring it home. We understand that. And Floyd was very good at communicating, which everyone's different, but he was very good at communicating of, I can't get this kid out of my head. This and this happened, or we found one dead, or stuff like that that just would stick to him, and he would bring it home. And even though mine were minor and others are more stressful because they're out on the beat on the actual streets, and they see so much. Everybody says, they're just domestic disputes, but officers take that with him. Officers take their anger and their frustration, and they see the way children are being treated, and there's nothing that much that they can do because they have to, run through a list of protocols and rules and things, and yeah, they absorb it. They absorb it, and they come home with it. And it's also a very stressful time because a family is wondering, how can we help you? And seeing them lash out, or seeing them take on other addictions to cope with it, and us not understanding, and us trying to understand, it brings a lot of stress on the family. Like, and then you're absolutely right. The law enforcement belongs to all of us, all of family members.
Carmen, in memory of your husband Floyd East Jr., end of watch, October 9th, 2017, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and having the courage to tell your story.
Thank you.
And I can't begin to imagine how much, again, just how much courage that takes. But also, I know that just spending the last hour with you, if and for people listening, that this will give them pause to reevaluate maybe something in their own relationship, or their relationship to the job, or their appreciation and gratitude for the simple fact that they're still here.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
so, thank you for being here
You're
today.
very well. Thank you very much. And if you don't mind me also saying something else about Texas 635.
Yes, please.
There's a second mission that we do, and that's called Blue Space. And we pay 100% for officers to go to a non-clinical retreat that is run by volunteer officers from across the country, who assist them and help them with all the mental stress that they deal with. It's basically
Mm.
made foremost for if they have lost a coworker in the line of duty, but it's also for any officer who is dealing with stress of any kind of the job. We take them to this 3-day retreat, and as like I said, it's volunteer officers who have been certified as clinical incident stress management individuals. Not only do they assist in this retreat, but they also go back to their own stations and they start being the eyes and ears and seeing from the other officers whom shows symptoms of getting to that point of that stress level. Because we found out that when we were out there appreciating our law enforcement and supporting them by our first mission, we found out that we lose a lot more officers to suicide than we do to line of duty deaths.
Very true.
And we found it as our second mission to help these officers and help them by non-clinical matters. We found out that is another military program that does the same thing for the military, and they immerse them in nature and they immerse them in physical activity and also in peer-to-peer conversations and talks, and that it has helped them tremendously. And that's what we do. We provide this for 100% free. We're only another one of nonprofit organization that does this for officers, and they can go to our website, www.texas635.com, and see the program and how it works and how they can apply if they see someone of their of their coworker officers who need assistance, or themselves dealing with the stress that they deal to and the things that they see every single day. We don't want them to. They're worth. They're precious. Their lives matter, and we want them to know that we are here to help them. And we have a GoFundMe charity fund that's happening right now. If they go to our website, they can see the link to our GoFundMe, because we do pay 100%. The officers don't have to pay anything for airline or anything to get to this place. And of course, because of Floyd, it is considered, it is based on the beach, it's based on the ocean, it's based on water activities, because that's what he loved to do. So just wanted to plug in our last mission on there, and anybody's assistance that they can help us with donations, because that's what our organization funds by. We're 501c3 certified. We have our licenses and all our I's dotted and our T's crossed. So we are a nonprofit organization. Like I said, this family and my friends have gotten together to make this come a reality. And by the time I croak, I hope this foundation continues flourishing and continues being there for officers and their families.
Well, with a leader like you, I'm sure it will. The Texas635.com is where people can go to learn about those or make a donation. We will put that in the show notes as well, so people can go to thesquadron.net /episode 129 and find those as well if they can't remember that, if they're predisposed. So, Carmen, thank you again for your time today. Thank you for turning this into something that is helping officers, exponentially, really, and furthering the impact of a man whose life ended in service of others, but yet it continues through this foundation. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, thanks for listening to this episode with Carmen East. If you like what you heard, or you felt there was some value in that, or something that was powerful to you that you think someone else could learn from, please consider sharing this episode with them. You can go right to our website, thesquadron.net, and share this episode right to somebody's email, Facebook, socials, what have you. You can also share it directly from Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or anywhere else you listen to your podcasts. But please consider spreading Carmen's message. Please consider supporting Texas 635. You can learn more at texas635.com. And just sit with that for a little bit. I'm sitting with Carmen's presence and her composure and her willingness to step out there and help others. It's just inspiring. She's clearly inspired by a man she was meant to be with, and I just can't thank her enough for her time. Special thanks to Hard to Kill Fitness for their efforts in supporting the show and getting out messages like Carmen's. You can follow them on Instagram. Go to our show notes for some special information on them there. Fantastic company doing a lot of stuff for physical fitness for first responders at hardtokillfitness.co. Until next time, take care of each other and stay safe.